Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Vasudeva sutam devam Kansa chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnang Vande Jagat Gurum. So in the last class, we were studying the 50th and the 51st sloka of the second chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. So the 51st sloka, just for a quick recapitulation, what was the idea spoken of there? That how does action lead to liberation? Karmajang buddhi yuktahi phalang tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantyanāmayam. Gacchanti anamayam. That is gacchanti anamayam. So karmajang buddhi yuktahi. So don't stop your actions. Go on doing your actions. The action which ensues from even-mindedness. Where this karmajang means the karma, which is the product of even-mindedness. So when with even-mindedness you do the same action, that is with equanimity, without hankering for the results of action. Phalang tyakta manishina. Then what happens? Freed from the fetters of birth. Janma bandha vinir mukta. Then these fetters of these cycles of birth and death, that comes to an end. Padang gacchanti anamayam. One reaches a state which is free from all anamayam means free from disease, free from any evil. It's pure state. So as in the last class we were indicating that karma, if I'm doing good karma, the good results will ensue. For evil, the evil result will ensue. And we have to suffer. We have to experience the result of action. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, that yes, for good actions, the result may be good. For evil, it may be evil. But after all, golden chain is also a chain. Iron chain is also a chain. Both binds. All the higher pleasures of life, which is the result of good actions, that too binds us. That too binds us in the cycle of birth and death. There cannot be liberation from this phenomenal plane of existence as long as we are hankering for the results of our action. We may say that what's the harm in having that golden chain? So as we were discussing that no actions can be fully pure or impure. All actions are mixed. There has to be some evil in all our actions. Just as Swami Vivekananda used to say that when he was delivering the lecture, all the people were transfixed. They were inspired. Swamiji told, at present, my lecture is not good for the microbes, which I am killing constantly just to live. We have to kill others in some way or other. Life means that. In all our activities, we will find it can never be totally good. With all our good intentions, when we are trying to do the best for our family, for our neighbors, for the world, in some way or other, evil accrues. Even in our day-to-day life, we find. So there cannot be any action that is just pure. So as a result, all the results also will be mixed. We expend up that which is less. If we have the store of very few good actions and the store of evil actions are more, then we will first enjoy the results of our good actions, and then it will follow. The results of the evil actions will follow. And to the contrary, if our evil actions are less and the good actions, the fund is more, we will immediately enjoy the results of the evil action, followed by a continuation of the results of the good action. But whatever it may be, that there cannot be limitless result for limited action. In one lifespan, however good karma I may try to do, it has a limit. So that way, once the result of the good actions are over, as has been spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita in later chapter, Kshine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. Again, from the higher planes of existence, we have to come down to this world of transitory existence, full of uncertainties. So this cannot speak of ultimate liberation. So what's the way out? The way out is to go on, continue with the responsibilities of life without hankering the results for it. It is not the karma that binds, it is the hankering for the results. It's our desires that binds us. So there is a nice concept of karma in our scriptures. So they say there are three types of karma: sanchita karma, kriyamana karma, and prarabdha karma. Sanchita karma, that it is a storehouse of all the past actions whose result I am yet to experience. They are all sanchita. Kriyamana karma. Kriyamana karma speaks of the actions which I am doing at present, whose result I will again experience in future. And the third is the prarabdha karma. That of all the actions which I have done in the past, the results of a few of them, a particular quota, that has started unfolding. I've started experiencing the results of a particular quota of my past actions. And that's the prarabdha, the thing which I am experiencing, the results of action which I am experiencing is prarabdha. The storehouse is the sanchita. The actions which I am doing and adding up to the storehouse to experience sometimes in future is the kriyamana. And the actions whose results I am experiencing now is the prarabdha. In the scripture, very nicely to explain these concepts of these three karma, they give a very nice example. The example of a hunter, a bowman, who is having a lot of arrows on the quiver, on the back of his shoulder, on the quiver, is full of arrows. That speaks of the sanchita karma. It's full of arrows. All those arrows speaks of the sanchita karma. Now he takes one arrow, places it on the bow, and he shoots it aiming at a bird sitting in a tree. So this is kriyamana, the action which is doing. So he shoots an arrow, seeing the bird on the tree. The arrow has now been discharged, it has been left. But before it hits the mark, he takes the second arrow, puts it on the bow. And when he's about to he's just about to shoot the arrow, suddenly the thought comes, a compassion develops in his heart. It's not good to kill animals. It's not good to kill other creatures. I should desist myself from such action. So what happens? The arrow which he has already placed on the bow, and he has already pulled the string, but he doesn't release it. So because of his compassion, because of the good, compassionate traits which develops in his mind, the action which he was about to do, the kriyamana, that never happens. All the arrows which is on the quiver, all the sanchita, which he will be using in future, they are no more used. Sanchita karma is no more used. Kriyamana is no more used. But the arrow which has already been shot, which is yet to hit the mark, it may hit or it may not hit. If his aim was not correct, it may not hit. Or if his aim was perfect, it would hit. Whatever it may be. The hunter, the bowman, has no control over it. It has already been shot. So what's the idea? Then whatever, whether it is karma yoga, jnana yoga, that once that detachment happens, that I am no more going to continue my life with the hankering of the desires. This kriyamana karma and the sanchita karma, they are not going to have any effect in future. For jnana yogi, the kriyamana karma may stop. He will just resort to contemplation. The karma yogi, the kriyamana karma may not stop. It may continue, but without the desire, without any desire. So desire is the factor which results in the accruing of the result. But the prarabdha we have to experience. There is no way that we can get rid of the prarabdha. So you have to go to that experience, and then when the prarabdha is exhausted, then there is no more this past impulse left for us to continue in the process of birth and death. That will lead to the atyantika mukti, ultimate liberation. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the scriptures. So janma bandha vinir mukta. And there is another idea. Here we find, especially the context of Bhagavad Gita, we take that Arjuna is in the battlefield. So here, in another way, this speaks of going beyond the results of actions and attaining the state which is beyond the cycles of birth and death, the state of liberation. How it happens, as in the last class we were indicating, that in a situation like that Arjuna was facing, he was in the battlefield. He was there as an instrument of the Lord for a righteous war. He was the instrument in the hand of the divine. As Sri Krishna, much later in this Bhagavad Gita, will be instructing Arjuna, Nimitta Matra Bhava Savya Sachin. Just become Nimitta, an instrument. Know it for certain. There's a divine plan behind what's going on. You're just the instrument of the divine. You're the divine worker. With this idea, take part in the action for which you are responsible. Do your duty. So with a sense of that I am the divine worker, I'm being attuned to the will of the divine. And when with such an idea, when we hold on to the ideal in a righteous war, the one who is holding on to the ideal, he nurtures, fosters the ideal, just the way the mother nurtures the child, fosters the child. And we know that mother nurtures the child in such a dedicated fashion that her own life becomes secondary. The child's welfare becomes the primary. Throughout the creation, we will find that the mother, not only as a human being, as any other creature, the mother is even willing to sacrifice her life, if it need be, for the welfare of the children. What it speaks of, the thing which is the cause of our bondage. Life after life, cycle after cycle of this birth and death is continuing. What's the reason behind it? It is the limited sense of ego. The conscious principle, which is beyond all sorts of limitations, got reflected in the psychophysical existence, giving us the sense of this limited individuality, which is the cause of the birth and death cycle. When we thinking ourselves as the instrument of divine, as the divine worker, just carry on with our responsibilities, with the sense of seek not, avoid not. In whatever situation God has placed me, I take care of my responsibilities. I don't avoid them. And at the same time, I'm not seeking, I'm not too ambitious about my selfish ambitions. I understand the wider perspective, the collective perspective. When we say God, it is not just a person. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, unselfishness is God. Where the ego barrier falls off, you're thinking of the welfare of the collective, samashti. That speaks of your attuning to the divine. The more we do that, it entails in the dissolution of the ego. And that's the only criteria of liberation. Whatever spiritual journey we are traversing, whether it is Jnana Yoga, whether it is Bhakti Yoga, whether it is Karma Yoga, or it is Dhyana Yoga, Raja Yoga, the ultimate aim is the dissolution of the ego. Once this limited ego falls off, immediately the Atman becomes Brahman. It's not that becoming, it's already Brahman. The word Brahman itself signifies that which is non-local. The word Brahman came from Brih Dhatu, which means Brihat. That I think my amness is limited within the psychophysical existence, but it's not. It's the ignorance. I am seeing the reflection in the psychophysical this existence and think that to be myself. I get deluded by seeing the reflection and take it to be the self. I identify myself with the reflection. That when that falls off, the Atman, which was appeared to be something local, immediately becomes Brihat. That's why the word Brahman came from that Brih Dhatu, that which is beyond all locality. Your amness now pervades the entire creation. And when that happens, there is no force to bind us into the cycle of birth and death. And that's why the word anamayam is also important here. Padam, that when the cycle of birth and death stops, when you reach the state where there is no disease, as in the last class we were indicating, that what is disease, even in our day-to-day life. Let us forget for the time being the spiritual sense, what disease means. Just, that physical disease or mental disease, what it is. That when I am at ease, when I am relaxed, when I'm enjoying health, I am not aware of any particular part of my body. The health throbs to the entire body. It percolates the entire body. What's the sign of disease? When that awareness which percolates the entire body, my entire individuality, it gets localized. When I say I'm having a headache, I am having body ache, I have some heart trouble, or my knees are paining, whatever it may be. So the consciousness, the awareness which was supposed to pervade the entire body-mind complex is now getting localized just to a part of the body. And that is dis-ease. Your ease has gone. So now take the spiritual sense. Our real amness is non-local. The moment the ego comes into picture, it immediately have the tendency to be aware, to limit itself just in the psychophysical existence. It is getting localized. And once it happens, this body-mind complex cannot be eternal. It has to follow the law of nature. It has to go through the 6 changes. Jayate, asti, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshyate, nasti. That all the things which are born, jayate, will exist for some time. First, it will grow for some time, and then the transformations process will start. Then the aging process will start, decay will start, ending in death, the death of the psychophysical existence. We are bound to. But the urge to live as a limited being is still there. So one body falls off, that urge, as per my karma, again gravitates me to another psychophysical existence. And that's how the cycle goes on. But once that ego has fallen off, once I have gone beyond the idea of this limited individuality, actually, limited individuality, this word itself is contradictory. Individuality can never be limited. Very nicely, these words are something whose original meaning we have forgotten, and we use it in a wrong sense. What does the word individual means? That which is not divisible, that which cannot be divided. Anything which is a conglomeration of many things can be divided. Our psychophysical existence is divisible. When I say I am an individual, it's a wrong nomenclature. That's why we find when Swami Vivekananda was giving lecture on Vedanta, and the idea of that non-locality came, that you merge in Brahman. One in the audience who was not familiar with that type of idea was traumatized. She stood up and told Swamiji, what happens to my individuality? And that's what then Swamiji replies, you are not individuals yet. You become an individual when you merge in that which can never be divided. That's individual. That which cannot be divided, that alone is individual. And that's the Brahman, the conscious principle, which is not a conglomeration of various attributes. It is beyond all attributes. And that's what, when you merge there is no question of locality. And that's why you have have reached the state which is disease-free. And that's why it is called anamayam. So the biggest disease, as Shankaracharya says, is the urge to take birth. He has termed it as bhava roga, the disease of worldliness. This for the consciousness to get localized is itself a state of disease. Ego entails localization of the self. So chitta suddhi resulting from the dissolution of the ego through buddhi yukta karma can alone take us to that disease-free state of our existence. So that's what is being indicated as the process, the nutshell of karma yoga. That's what being indicated in this sloka. So now let us proceed to the next sloka. That all the knowledge, after all, is not book learning. Whether it be karma yoga, jnana yoga, or any yoga, bhakti yoga, it should result in realization. That knowledge can never be book learning. Knowledge only comes from experience. Without experience, there cannot be any knowledge. So in spiritual, even in our day-to-day life, just the common example which we give, that if I have tasted the mango, and if I go on explaining the taste of mango to a group of people who have never tasted, however adept I may be in explaining. However skillful I have the tremendous skills in explaining things vividly, however capacity I may have, unless someone has experienced it, for years together I may go on with my explanation. Can I explain the taste of this mango? So only realization can give us knowledge. Book learning can never give us knowledge. Conceptual knowledge is no knowledge. It is just a mere concept. It has to be experienced, and then only the knowledge dawns. And that's the idea which will be spoken of in the next sloka. That why Bhagavan is bringing this idea, that many think that Jnana Yoga only is the path which speaks of liberation, because you know that you are in ignorance, and you know that your awareness of you know that there is something called self, and that knowledge renders you freedom. Just by doing selfless action, how can you reach liberation? Because there's no question of that knowledge. So here you will find, if you read the Bhagavad Gita between the lines, they're saying that what you say as knowledge is mere conceptual knowledge. When I say I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses, who is saying? The mind is saying. You are saying I am not the mind, I am Atman. Who is saying it? It is the mind. So it is not something which is a realization. You have not gone beyond the mind to get established in that experience of the self. What you're saying is just a concept. That's not the real knowledge. The real knowledge happens only through the dissolution of the ego, and that again happens through Chitta Shuddhi. And that may happen just by work done with proper orientation. So what's the sloka? Let us read, and then we will go to the discussion. Yadate moha kalilam buddhi vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavyasya srutasya cha. So when your mind has crossed the taint of delusion, moha kalilam, yadate moha kalilam. It can happen in so many ways. By practicing discrimination, what is real, what is unreal. It can happen that way. It can happen through karma without desires. Through that also we can have Chitta Shuddhi. And that can entail in the, the dissolution of all sorts of moha, this delusion. So our aim is the cleansing of the mind, Chitta Shuddhi, so that we can go beyond the taints of delusion, moha kalila. So when you have crossed that, you will achieve indifference regarding things heard and things yet to be heard. Tada gantasi nirvedam. Nirvedam means renunciation, indifference. So why the word nirvedam is used? That whenever I have some desire, that I have a desire to cook a delicacy, what I do, I will go to the internet. Nowadays, everything is available there. And the internet is like the weather. Why it is Veda? The Veda doesn't mean only a particular book. The word Veda came from vid dhatu. Vid means to know. The source of knowledge is Veda. So at present, yes, of course, the internet is Veda, because that's the source of knowledge. If I take the etymological meaning of the word Veda, not just the specific scriptures, that's what the human language always does. That the first copying machine, the company who prepared it was Xerox, and in India you go, that just copying is known as Xeroxing. They call it just, I have to Xerox this. I have to need a Xerox copy. So what happens that some specific term with the usage starts denoting something more generic, some general thing. So here also Vedas, in those days, the word Veda evolved from that, the source of knowledge, that this, in those days, whatever knowledge was there is being like the encyclopedia, it's there in the Vedas. And we started saying that book as Vedas, but we forgot that actually Veda means just the encyclopedia. Any source of knowledge is Veda. We have specified it to a particular book. So here the word Nirveda means that whenever I have a desire, as a human being, we have that capacity. What is that capacity? That the knowledge is being stored. My predecessors, whatever knowledge they have earned, that knowledge is retained. That's the difference between the human beings and other creatures. In all other creatures, it was only the biological evolution where the experiences have been stored in the genes. And that way, a biological creature, just by its innate biological traits, inherits those. But as a human being, our evolution has transcended the mere biological evolution and it has gone to the intellectual level. Intellectually we evolve. How? Just see a small child going to the school. By the time he's in 12th standard, the knowledge which he has gathered that knowledge in the span of 10 to 12 years. How much knowledge? The knowledge which the humankind has gathered for thousands of years. All the various scientists, all the historians, all the knowledge for thousands of years which they were cultivating, he is getting that knowledge, acquiring that knowledge just in the span of 12 years. How? Because it's all recorded, the source of knowledge. Previously, it was the book, we called it Veda. Later, there are so many other books. They're also Vedas. Etymologically, they're all Vedas. In the present day, internet, that is also Veda. The source of knowledge is Veda. So by Nirveda, what we means, the moment I have a desire, that I have the desire to experience the fruits of my action, that I have to do something very skillfully to enjoy a better result, either now or in future. So when the desire comes, then resorting to that source of knowledge comes. This is all that in the past, the predecessors have already stored. So the word Nirveda, that's how means indifference. Veda means the source of knowledge. When you no more hanker for the results of action, for the worldly enjoyments, you will never refer to all those. Literally, it has fallen off. There's no need for that. There's no need for referring to that because your interest in enjoying the fruits of your results have fallen off. So that's why the word Nirveda means indifference. Regarding Sruta, Sruta Vyasa means what you have, the things I have heard. So do such and such thing, you get such and such result. Srota Vyasa, in future, whatever is going to come. See, just in the present day, just we are waiting for the artificial intelligence, to really evolve so that we can enjoy the results of it. The Tesla car is yet to take up the market, though it has started coming, so that we can enjoy the results of the fuel-free. That's total, this carbon emission has to stop. So these are all srotavya in the future. So should we not go for that? It's not that. They're all okay. Only thing which is that the personal interest behind that. Again, for all those things which I'm thinking in a collective way, that is God. As Swami Vivekananda again and again says, that unselfishness is God. It's a wonderful definition. Whether one believes in religion or not, the one who believes in religion, who has the idea of personal God, they also are bound to agree that God is beyond selfishness. And one who is an atheist, who doesn't believe in God, but he also believes that for the welfare of the society, unselfishness is the only way. For the collective, the individual's interest has to be subordinate. Individual interest has to be subordinated by the collective welfare. So that's why we find this idea of unselfishness. So when you are doing with the sense of that you are the divine worker, an instrument in the hand of the divine, it's not only for your personal selfish gains that you're doing, then all those actions goes on, everything goes on, but it is not going to bind me. So that's the thing which is being indicated here in this sloka. And it's not going to bind me, and through the process of Chitta Shuddhi, I need not have to sit down and contemplate to realize my inner self. Even by this selfless action, it can entail in Chitta Shuddhi, resulting in the realization. It can take me beyond the bonds of ego to give me the realization of the self. And when it has happened, there is no need for these books anymore. So this nirvedam srotavyasya srutasya cha. So this is a very pertinent or important word in this sloka. And how you reach the state? By going beyond the tent of delusion. So what is the cause of all this moha, this delusion? It is again the idea of self, that as in the Yoga Sutra, we find the concept of pancha klesha: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. The moment that ignorance dawns, the non-local self, seeing its reflection in the psychophysical existence, thinks it to be, sees reflection to be the real identity. It identifies with the reflection. And that's the ajnana, that's the avidya. And from that, the asmita comes, the sense of this limited individuality comes. And from that, all the desires, or in the form of raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. The desire to continue with my limited individuality results in this raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Attachment to the things which favors my limited individuality, raga. And dvesha, abhinivesha speaks of the fight and flight response to the things which are not favorable for my limited individual existence. So this is the cause of the moha. When I go beyond that, by Chitta Shuddhi, when the asmita starts dissolving, and it takes me to the realization, before I attain realization, the dispassion for experiencing the results in this life or hereafter. Iha amutra falabhoga viraga. So when you have developed that, you won't resort to the so-called this varied knowledge. Constantly we are chasing after this, constantly we are searching the internet for this type of knowledge, for that type of knowledge, and we all understand how it disturbs our mind. Constantly, anyone suggests that such and such thing is good, and you can get it from the internet, you immediately are constantly busy in downloading such things. So it speaks of that referring to the source of knowledge for enjoying the results of action. It is a big distraction. That what's my responsibility for that when I'm resorting to the source of knowledge? That's okay. But in our life, we will find that how distracted we get because of this constant lure, that the constant, the way this world is luring us for the various pleasures of life. It is distracting me. And that's how that I can never be detached to the Srotavya and Srutasya. That all the things which I hear and I'm yet about to hear, I'm constantly chasing after them. So till I haven't attained the spiritual realization, this Karma Yoga can help me to get rid of the desire for enjoying the results here and hereafter. Iham amutra phalabhoga is viraga. So that when you have developed that, there is naturally that the tendency to resort to the encyclopedia of knowledge, that starts falling off. So before spiritual realization dawns in, this sloka is valid, and after the attainment of spiritual realization, when through the process of karma yoga, when I have sufficient chitta suddhi, which takes me to the realization, then also this sloka is significant. Why? That example with which we started. When you go to the realization, even the Jnana Kanda, the Veda has two sections, Karma Kanda, which speaks of the skills we have to develop to enjoy better result in this life or in the afterlife. There's a Karma Kanda. And Jnana Kanda speaks of the knowledge of the self. After the attainment of spiritual knowledge, spiritual realization, that Jnana Kanda also I did not have to resort. Because I've realized, as we were giving that example, once you have tasted the mango, there is no need to read book about the taste of mango. You have realized, you know that the books can never explain the taste of mango unless you have tasted it. So its efficacy is no more there for me in my life. The purpose of the scripture is fulfilled. So whether it is Karma Kanda of the Vedas or the Jnana Kandas of the Vedas, I have developed detachment from there. The books are no more required. That's why in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find Ramakrishna is indicating that who is a Paramahansa? A Jnani has books. A Paramahansa has no books. He is Paramahansa, supreme detached. In the scriptures, where the word Paramahansa came, the idea is that there is a swan. When you give a milk to that swan which is mixed with water, it will drink only the milk. The water will be left out. Means he takes only the essence. The rest is, he just simply discards. So from that, the word Paramahansa came. The one who has gone beyond the ignorance and he takes only the essence. He's established in the self and discards the projection, the thing which is being projected projected as a superimposition of the self. He has totally discarded that. He has taken the essence. So he is a Paramahansa. So when it happens, when he has gone to the realization, and then there is no need for the books. So that's why in gospel we find that the Jnani do have a lot of books with him. But the Paramahansa has no need for books also. So he is beyond the Srotavya and Srutasya. He has nothing to hear because the knowledge has already dawned in. And in future also there won't be any need for resorting to any type of knowledge. All the curiosity has fallen off. There is no more curiosity mongering because he has known the truth which is eternal. So the curiosity only comes when some new thing is supposed to be experienced. Curiosity is always for something new. And when you know you are in eternal present, the curiosity is no more there. And when curiosity is no more there, the things to be heard of in future, interest for that also is gone. So that's the idea. So when by Chitta Shuddhi, we go beyond all the delusion, resulting in realization, then this interest for hearing about the various ways, the various knowledge and skills by which I can enjoy the higher pleasures of life, that falls off. And I have no curiosity of even some future things waiting for me. So they all fall off. So when your mind has crossed the tent of delusion, you will achieve indifference, nirvedam, regarding things heard, that is srota, and things to be heard, that is srotavya, srutasya. So that's the idea. The same idea will be reiterated, extended again in the next sloka. Shruti Vipratipannate, the 53rd sloka of the second chapter. Shruti Vipratipannate yada sthashyati nischala samadhavachala buddhi stada yogam avapsyasi. Shruti Vipratipanna means perplexed by the conflicting views of the various religious books, various isms. That is Shruti Vipratipanna. Shruti means what you hear. Vipratipanna means perplexed. So as long as we have not gone to the realization, that's our state of existence. We feel we will be perplexed by the conflicting views of various type of isms. Intellectuality is like a double-edged sword. In this life, you will always find with intellectualism, we can prove anything and then again we can contradict it. Constantly it happens. Constantly. Whether it is in politics, whether it is even in science. So many concepts are developed and then you find some other new concepts come to contradict, to negate the previous concepts. So as long as it is conceptual, constantly it is happening. And that's it is perplexing. It confuses us. So that's why in a very funny way it is being told that if you cannot convince, confuse, and that's what the world with all its knowledge is constantly doing. We get confused. But once you have a realization, then your intellect becomes steady, firm. So only when you get realized, just the common example that with which we started our class today, that as long as you have not tasted the mango, the same taste of mango which has been explained to you, the one who have tasted, he explained that it is sweet and it has a nice flavor. Someone says its sweetness is like honey and it has a flavor of jasmine. And most probably you have faith in that person, you start believing him. And someone comes and says, no. It's sweet as molasses and it has a fragrance of rose. Now you get confused. Which is correct? Is the previous one which was told is correct or this one? The first person told something generic. It is sweet and it has a flavor. And now after hearing that, so many commentaries are coming out. I'm confused. How long I will be confused? As long as I have not tasted the mango. The moment I taste the mango, then my conviction makes me stand firm and steady in my realization. Gata Sangshaya Dhrira Nishchaya. That's the line which we sing every day during the Arati. It's an adjective we have used for Sri Ramakrishna. Gata Sangshaya, as he is established in religion, so his Gata Sangshaya, all his confusion, Sangshaya, confusion, doubt, Gata has vanished forever. Dhrira Nishchaya. His conviction, he's very, very firm in his conviction. Because he has realized. So here the same idea, Shruti Vipratipannate yada, when you go to that realization, when you get established in the realization, your intellect becomes firm and steady in your conviction. And all those things which were perplexing you because of the varied opinions, that's gone forever. And when it happens, when your buddhi is established in samadhi. samadhu achala buddhi. Tada yogam avapsasi. Know it for certain, then only you have attained yoga. So how that samadhi is possible? Any knowledge actually speaks of samadhi. Any knowledge. When I'm testing the mango, if I've tested the mango and I know what the taste is, I was in samadhi. How? That for realizing, for in this life, for realizing anything, your mind has to be focused. You will find it so happens, sometimes you're eating, you're just having a particular food, most probably there is no salt. And you never realize that there is no salt because your mind was engaged in something else, in some office matters, in some related to some job. You were so intensely thinking of it. Or maybe you are going through some lawsuits, you're thinking of the outcome, what the outcome will be. You are so intensely thinking that though you are taking food, tasting food, your mind is not focused to what you are eating. And as a result, as the mind doesn't get connected, there is no knowledge. So for any knowledge to happen, what happens? The mind has to get focused. So focused for the time being, nothing apart from that is in my mind. I become totally as if identified with it for the time being. When I'm in our day-to-day life, all the small secular knowledges which we are having, there the samadhi is just for the fraction. The thing which I acquired the knowledge through experience, for the time being, my mind was totally focused on it, and that's how the knowledge dawned. In spiritual life also, it's the same thing. When in samadhi means what? When the triputi bheda happens, dhyana, dhyata, dheya, this triad collapses, that I am meditating. The ego is still there. I am still there. The mind is yet to get totally concentrated on it. The knowledge is never going to dawn. When that I falls off, you become as if one with the object of meditation, and then only it speaks of realization. You go to the buddhi has become achala. It's no more vacillating. It is totally experiencing the thing on which your mind is focused. There is no vacillation. So this achala buddhi speaks of samadhi. And when that happens, then yogam, this yoga avapsas, you have attained yoga. What is yoga? Yoga means union, conjunction. That our ignorance is not allowing us to get unified to my real self. That there is real self, and here is the reflection. Somehow, because of delusion, I am thinking myself as the reflection. The mind has to fall off. The prism has to be removed for the spectrum to merge with the white light. The spectrum is there, prism is there, and the white light is there. Then how long the spectrum will be there? As long as the prism is there. The prism has to be removed for the spectrum to merge in the white light. And then I realized I was the white light. I was thinking of these varied names and forms. It's all projection. So for that, the mind has to go off. And that happens in samadhi, when that your buddhi is no more vacillating. It has got totally fixed to the object of meditation. So much concentrated that your ego also falls off. You become as if totally merged in the object of meditation. And then only you have attained yoga. The mind has now fallen off. As long as there is a vacillation, the mind is. That's why Yoga Sutra starts with that nice sutra. The second sutra is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta Vritti. We always translate it as the waves of the mind, the vacillations of the mind. But Vritti doesn't mean vacillation. Chitta means mind, and Vritti we translate it as vacillations. Vritti means occupation. Why the vacillations, the waves of the mind has been called the mind's occupation? Because as long as the waves are there, the mind is there. Just the way my occupation sustains me. If you're a doctor, being a doctor, you sustain yourself. Being an engineer, by your profession, you sustain yourself. Being a teacher, being a professor, whatever may be your profession, by that you sustain yourself. The mind sustains itself by the profession called these vacillations. The moment the desire is there, the vacillations are there, and the mind sustains itself. When the desires are not there, these vacillations are going to stop. Even in deep sleep, it doesn't go. In deep sleep, what happens? The vacillations are there, but there is no content in it. This Yoga Sutra is a very interesting scripture, where there's abhava pratyaya alambana vritti nidra. That vrittis are still there, but it is abhava. There is no pratyaya. There is no content. When I'm seeing something, I'm seeing the mountain. The waves are reflecting the mountain. So the knowledge of the mountain dawns in. So pratyaya is the mountain. That's the reflection. So we are never without the waves of mind. It is always there. It's only in that samadhi the waves stop. And as we told, it is a wave that sustains the mind. That's why it's called vritti. Vritti means occupation. The chitta also subdues, and immediately the entire spectrum has merged with the core of your being. That's the only reality. And then the realization dawns. Yoga has happened. Yet you get identified that actually there was no separation because of ignorance. The mind came into picture and it appeared as if I'm separate from the self. The mind falls off. Yoga, I get merged with the absolute reality. And then all the confusion is vanished. Because now whatever, all the various isms and everything, which is the product of the delusion, of the ignorance, because I took the concept to be the reality. It was just the conceptual knowledge which I was thinking to be the only knowledge. So I've gone beyond the concepts. I've realized it. So there's no question of anymore this getting deluded by the various opinions. So now your intellect has become fully stable in its conviction. It is firm and steady in its conviction in the self. So that's the idea which has been spoken of in the 53rd. So the 52nd and the 53rd speaks of the real spiritual evolution. It's not mere book learning. It's that, or the Swamiji, following the instructions of Ramakrishna, always used to say, religion is realization. So the 52nd and the 53rd sloka of the second chapter stresses that religion is realization. When I'm fighting, quarreling, that Jnana Yoga is superior, Karma Yoga is inferior. It's only those who cannot forsake karma, they go for Karma Yoga. These are all products of Ajnana. Because the Jnana Yogi who brags that knowledge alone can take realization, what he is resorting to is not knowledge, it's a mere concept. It has not taken him to the realization. And until it has taken him to the realization, it is no knowledge. It's a mere concept. As we find that when Swami Vivekananda once came to Ramakrishna and told that such and such faith is a blind faith, immediately Ramakrishna's response was wonderful. He told, can you say me which faith has eyes? Faith means blind. However refined may be my argument, and I may brag that my philosophy is something very refined, it's after all based on concepts. It's not realization. So however refined it may be, it has not taken you to the realization. So that religion is realization, and unless the realization has happened, there cannot be any change in our life. We may feel that I am established in the knowledge, life is no more going to disturb me. And when we find that the challenges of life, this life is there in front of me, my knowledge is in no way helping me. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, that our condition is like a stag, a male deer seeing the reflection of its muscular limbs in the water was bragging how strong I am. He was bragging to the fawn, the small deer, young deer. Just see how strong I am. And suddenly it heard the barking of a dog. It even didn't see the dog, just heard from somewhere that sound was coming. And it started running frantically. And after running for a long distance, it was exhausted, it was gasping. And when the fawn also was following it, now the fawn asked, just now you were so confident about your strength. What happened to your confidence? And then the fawn says, I don't know what happened to what happens to my confidence the moment I hear the barking of a dog. So that's why the same thing, that all your convictions has gone. You're no more steady in your conviction. It makes you run. It makes you frightened. The fight and flight response again ensues. Obsessions again ensues. Unless you're established in your realization. Before that, all this are going to vacillate you in the dualities of life. So that's the only sign of spiritual evolution. That have you gone to the realization, and has that realization enabled you to transcend the dualities of life? Then only you are firm in your conviction. They have gone beyond all the doubts, and nothing can as such disturb you. So though you are living, you are free. That you are like a Jivan Mukta Purusha. You are a Jivan Mukta. That though living, that's as a human being, we as a human being are only capable, no other creatures are capable to experience the joy that emanates from the state of Jivan Mukti. Freedom, liberation while living. Though I am living, nothing affects me. All the dualities of life has fallen off for me. Jivan Mukti Sukha Prapti Hetave Janmadharana. The purpose of the human birth is to enjoy that state of existence. Here we find that the way our Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, speaks of a state which is not post-mortem. I don't have to go to heaven after death. Here, here itself, now and here, I can enjoy that state. Just if we can, through our proper orientation in our day-to-day life, not by changing the course of our life. Let the life flow as it is. Change the orientation. That will entail in Chitta Shuddhi. Ultimately, it will take to the realization. And then I can come back again from that realization, come down to this life with a total overhauled perspective. My action can still go on, but now it has become spontaneous. Before the realization, I was trying to be established in yoga. I was Aru Ruksho. These words are so wonderful. In Bhagavad Gita, in 6th chapter, these words will come. And then I become Yoga Rura. I've been established in yoga. My sadhana has now got converted into spontaneity. Previously, I was willfully endeavoring to remain equanimous in all situations. And when I come down from the samadhi, that becomes the habitual state of my existence. I don't have to endeavor for it, don't have to try for it. That equanimity has become my nature. And that's why, though I am doing action, I am beyond action. I'm knowing very well, I never do action. It's the body-mind which is interacting with the world, and it is going on with its action. I am just the mere spectator. So when the scripture speaks of this going beyond karma, it doesn't mean that you have stopped karma. Karma may go on, but your attachment to it has fallen off. So you, even in the vortex of action, in the tremendous action, you can enjoy the peace of contemplation. The contemplation in the world of action. That's what yoga aims at, karma yoga aims at. So with this, we stop our discussion today. We will, next section, the remaining portion of the Bhagavad Gita, or the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, will be just elucidating the state of Sthita Pragya. The one who has here we found that the word Sthashyati Nischala. he becomes firm in his conviction, and nothing can perplex him. So what's that state? That that one who has got established in that state, how does he behave? How does he move around in this world? So that will be elucidated by Bhagavan. Once it has been asked by Arjuna, Bhagavan Krishna will explain for the remaining chapter from the 55th to the last of the second chapter. This state of the Sthita Pragya will be explained. So we will take up this section again from the next class. So thank you all. Namaskar.